Hello and welcome to Poolside Problems. I'm Tor.
And I'm Elle. Poolside Problems is a podcast about our lives as 30-something-ish women living on a small island.
From moving abroad and finding friendship in unlikely places, the fun and the hard times, including some of the bigger problems life throws at us, like fertility, relationships, moving countries and everything in between.
Not forgetting our poolside problems, our daily rants that aren't really serious problems at all. We can't promise it will be hilarious, but there will be laughter and honesty and maybe even some special guests along the way.
We hope you enjoy tuning in to our girl chats each week. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our Instagram account for updates. Hi, welcome to Poolside Problems. I'm Tor.
And I'm Elle.
And this is the first podcast, but I think we've recorded the first podcast about 10 times now.
Episode 1, take 245.
Oh my goodness me. So anyway, let's hope that you are hearing this and this is actually episode 1.
Maybe this one will get out to the world.
Maybe.
Our beautiful voices to share.
So we decided to do a podcast about 3 years ago.
3 years ago, I think the first episode was.
Yeah. And then in that time, a lot of things happened. And between us now, we have 4 children, which we didn't have then.
Yeah, I was pregnant, wasn't I? And you were trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
Actually, I think maybe we were both pregnant at one point.
Yeah, I think we might have been.
Briefly.
I was married and Elle wasn't yet married and she is now married.
2 pandemic weddings later.
Yep. So that's a short overview of what has been going on since we decided to do this podcast and probably an insight into why that podcast hasn't happened yet. But yeah, so Elle, you have got a little boy and a little girl and you got married.
Yeah. We both live in Bermuda.
Yep. And that is why the podcast is called Poolside Problems, because we are on a tiny, amazing island, but we obviously still find things to moan about.
Always.
So we thought, you know what? Let's talk about being an expat. Let's talk about being women, getting married, having babies.
In our mid-30s.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I was about to turn 35 when we last recorded. And I'm about to turn 36. Next week. I think one of the episodes we were going to talk about becoming mid-30s and like whether you're old and how old we are, but
maybe we can still talk about that. So every week we will talk about one of our poolside problems, and it could be a big problem and it could be a small problem, but that is going to be on our agenda. On today's agenda, we're just going to have a chat.
Yeah.
About life. And
I actually read this thing the other day, which was on very British Problems, you know it?
Yes.
The Instagram, and it was like Very British Problems group. When you're in a group contest and someone says, let's all talk about ourselves for a bit. And then the British person's like, let's not. Should we all start by introducing ourselves? And then like, we could not. And I was like, that is so how an intro to a podcast should be. It's like, let's all talk about ourselves.
Yeah.
You're really good at that. I'm a bit more like, what? Oh, sorry, what's my name again? I can't remember. What? Oh, yeah, what? Yes, I do have 2 children. That's right. Anyway, let's talk about ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I actually feel like I need to bring this up now. The easy way to differentiate us is like, you might have already done it, but Tor, I'm from Essex and my accent is very Essex. And Elle, you are...
When I'm with you, I'm much more Essex, I think. I'm training myself.
I feel like Essex people would disagree with that.
Okay.
But Elle is a lot posher, and actually I say posher in like a very varied term. A friend of ours asked what I was doing today, and I said I was going to do my podcast, and she asked if I said posh class. So she thought Elle was giving me posh lessons, which...
So, welcome to the first posh class.
I think it's quite funny.
It's fair to say that we were unlikely friends, weren't we, when we first met?
Yeah,
no one called it.
No. But we met... Well, I'd only been here not very long, had I, when I first met you?
No, and you crashed your car.
I did.
After meeting me.
God.
It was that memorable.
So exciting. Yeah, so I got invited to a lunch and Elle was there. And we just got chatting, and we both basically love a chat. Our husbands are like, how do you get so much conversation into the day, and what do you actually talk about? And the answer is, we don't really know.
No, not a lot. A lot of words said.
Yeah.
That's all they know.
But not enough context. And yeah, I can't remember how we just kind of hung out and that was it.
Yeah, I think it just became a daily thing to go and sit on your sofa. And then not long after that, I became pregnant and would go and lie on your sofa.
Yes.
And then what happened? You went to England?
Yeah, I think being expats as well, like our husbands work and we don't. And we'll go into more about that, I'm sure, along the podcasts. But kind of not having a job, not having family close, you become friends very quickly with people, and like us, unlikely friends probably, because you need to fill your day, and we filled our days quite easily together. Some people are happier being on their own. We definitely are not those sorts of people. And I think
FOMO is real.
we even used to go to the supermarket together, just because why would you go to the supermarket on your own?
And I think I read this thing recently about friendships and sort of the timing of your lives, and how like you might have had really close friends growing up, and part of the reason you became really good friends is because you were in the same stage of life and you're just at school together or whatever, and your school's the same and your problems are the same, and actually living here as an expat, like you said, your friends become your family because your family aren't here, but also your friends who you've grown up with or from before aren't here either, so you rely on those people for things, but also your lives are quite similar. We're in a similar stage of lives. Our husbands work in similar jobs, and that's a really natural thing that you become friends. And how cool that like we became friends when I never even been to Essex.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Bath actually, so.
For a wedding?
And the thing is, yeah, it was for a wedding actually. And also the funny thing is that now, like, that was our chat when we first started thinking about this podcast, but now we have got kids and we are married and we've got busier lives, and actually going to the supermarket on my own is one of my favourite things to do.
We even had our nails done not even next to each other the other day.
I know.
Which was a bit awkward, wasn't it?
Upsetting, wasn't it? No, again, I was quite happy. I was replying to emails. I was like, I've got time.
Yeah, so I'm marginally less needy 2 years later. 3 years later.
But like, yeah, I think if you're not an expat, you might be able to relate to this in the sense of like having kids and being on your own and making new friends with those like people who've got kids the same age, or people that are expats that might listen to this be like, wow, yeah, I fully get that. Like, I wanted to see people 24/7 because it's all really new and weird. And like some of the people here that are expats quite like their own time and like dip in and out of the kind of expat get-togethers.
So also one thing to add about Bermuda is that it's not as temporary as some other kind of expat hubs. Like if you go and do a couple of years in Sydney maybe, or Hong Kong, and obviously lots of people also go and live in those places and spend a long time there, but there are a lot of people, there are quite a few old timers here, aren't there? So when you're new, even if you've been here 5 years, which I'm nearly 5 years, people will still treat you like you're a newbie. And actually it is all still new, but then also it's not as temporary. Like there are a lot of people who are very settled here and like make their lives like here long term and stuff.
For sure. And even though it's like the tiniest island ever, like the way I can describe it is like where I'm from, or not where I'm from, but where I live in the UK, Brentwood, is the same population as the whole country of Bermuda.
I think that's the same as Bath.
Like that is mental.
Have to look that up.
Maybe we'll have to look out. We could be quoting a little bit wrong, a little bit out, but like in general, that's roughly it. So like that is crazy.
I just got in a real muddle about that in Antigua actually, because we went on holiday to Antigua as a family, and it's really big. There's loads of like trees and amazing like landscapes and stuff, and I was like, I can't believe it's like the same square miles as Bermuda, and there's like so much space because it's the same population, the same square miles. And my husband was like, are you sure about that? Because like we're driving for like half an hour. It's quite hard to drive for like half an hour here, apart from the fact that it's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Anyway, got my facts all in a muddle, and it's basically the same population as Bermuda, but like 100 times the size.
So it's more spread out, more space.
That's why there's like way more trees. I was like retreat from my fact sharing about Antigua to my husband again, because he fully called me out on it.
To be fair, I love that when you get something wrong. That happened to me the other day. So in Bermuda, this will definitely be a poolside problem that you'll hear a lot about, that everything's expensive here because we are an island and everything has to be brought in, etc., and it's tax-free. So things cost a lot of money. The other day, the garage told us we needed 4 new wheels on our car. And I was like, oh no, it's going to be so much money. And I thought the guy told me it was going to cost me $900 a tyre. And I was like, wow, things are expensive here. Like, that is a lot, but
That is an ouch amount though, isn't it?
yeah. So I was like,
more-
oh, I feel sick. This is awful. So I asked for some recommendations of other tyre places, called them up, and like it was significantly less. And I was like, wow, God, this garage is really overcharging me. And I was like, no, let's call them back up and like fact check. And no, it was $900 for all 4 tyres, but I'd been convinced he told me it was per tyre. And my husband was like, are you sure? I was like, honestly, 100%, I'm right. And then I was like, yeah, I was wrong. No, it's just for 4, which still sickening. $900 for like 4 tyres still makes me want to vom. But it was actually cheaper than the other quotes I'd got. So I just went straight back to the garage that I'd already been to and was like, yeah, you can replace my tyres.
Tom, my husband, would call me like a broker in that scenario, because I'd go back to him being like, yeah, so actually we've saved like $3,000, and he'd be like, no, it was just your mistake, and I'd be like, no, because we've saved that money because we nearly spent it, but it doesn't get past him really. Actually, maybe that should be our poolside problem for this week: the cost of living here.
Yes.
When you first move here and you go to the supermarket and buy 4 items, and you're like, oh, I could have bought. That's halfway to a really nice handbag.
Yeah.
And I've got a lettuce and some spring onions.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Which, and I think this is the thing, some people might listen to this and be like, oh, poor you guys living in Bermuda moaning about that. And that is exactly why I've called it Poolside Problems. We know that there's bigger things in the world than this, but this is our everyday today. And there are probably other expats that live in countries similar to this that are fully going, yes, we get you. Because...
Well, also, I think we think that, well, we don't take ourselves too seriously.
No.
And we hope that comes across. But we also don't, like, we recognise how ridiculous some of the situation we live in, but we are also just 2 girls in our mid-30s. We've had real problems. We've had silly problems.
Yeah.
We've had, like, probably I've had a disproportionate amount of time crying over something really petty and then not a real problem. Then I have like our actual real problems. But there are things that happen in your lives that sometimes there's like the best way to deal with it is like lighten it. And we're going to talk on here about not just about our poolside problems, our silly problems, but like the real things we've come across being girls, being like mothers, trying to be mothers.
Yeah, like
good mums, bad mums.
When we met our husbands, like finding like, oh, am I going to be on the shelf at 30 and things like that. So things that I think most women, men, who knows, go through. So that's kind of where we're at with like life and why we decided to do this. And like, I don't know if anyone follows me on Instagram, but you might start following me or you might already follow me. But I kind of use my Instagram to kind of share my experiences and help me and other people. And I think that's kind of, this is also that for like just women in general our age.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're certainly in a specific point in our lives, which we've said is similar, but that isn't to say we don't have real problems or care about other people's real problems or the silly problems. We want you to tell us your silly problems too.
We do.
And
your poolside problem.
Your poolside problem. What would you sit by the pool? That was kind of how it came about, wasn't it? We would actually be maybe sitting in a really nice scenario still, moaning. And
we were like, we need to make something of this because this is a joke. We're sat by a pool moaning about like how much a cauliflower cost us at the supermarket. So yeah, we'd kind of love some input from our listeners. Hopefully we get some of their poolside problems, and we'll be discussing those and ours every week. We'll probably go into more, no, we won't probably, we will go into more detail in like our bigger problems and things that we kind of want to put out there and share.
Probs, no politics.
Yeah,
really.
I think we'd kind of like to leave that to the side for now. The world is a scary place and we've just come out of a pandemic and it's nuts. So yeah, I think we will just talk about ourselves, which, as you say, is very un-British, but they're the sort of things that will help other people. And it is like therapy, talking about yourself to other people. And we definitely feel like we give each other therapy with the amount we talk.
A poolside problem
Yes.
shared is a poolside problem half.
And we are also obsessed with other podcasts. I think that's a really key thing, is that like we love listening to podcasts ourselves. We understand that there's millions out there that people could
And
be
we're
listening
not
to.
just another pandemic podcast.
No.
We started our podcast
Before the pandemic.
a
Kind
good
of.
couple of times
Yeah.
at least.
And our picture that we would probably put with our podcast, and you'll see on Instagram at some point 3 years ago, we probably looked a lot fresher faced than we do now.
Oh, crushing.
Oh well, that's what good skincare regimes and Botox is for, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we are also sun worshippers, which doesn't help.
This is true. When we have time.
Yes.
We're choosing to sit inside
Yeah, we literally recorded this in my closet, which isn't like a massive walk-in wardrobe, just putting it out there. But we just wanted somewhere, one, to hide from my kids because we're at my house, and two, that would like soak up the sound a bit better. So we hope.
thought you were going to say soak up the sun. I was like, there's definitely no.
It's not a window.
We're not going to get a tan.
So I feel like that is a good overview of us and why we decided to do it, where we're at. And we'd love to hear from you. Our email address and everything will be on our Insta, and our Insta is at Poolside Problems. So yeah, get in touch.
We're your agony aunts.
Yes.
Probably best to explain what brought us to Bermuda, the tiny island that is in the middle of the Atlantic, which everyone gets confused with Barbados.
Or the Bahamas.
Yeah. And actually, I find a lot of people think that Bermuda is near like Mexico or like really far from the UK. But actually, we're kind of lucky in that we're 5-6 hour flight.
Yeah, we're basically like a New York flight from the UK. It's pretty much the same. And for us to get to New York or Miami or Boston, we're just like an hour and a half flight. So I feel like doing it in flights is quite a nice, easy way. So like that's quite good for us that we're kind of close to the east coast of America, but also to get back to the UK where we're from, it doesn't take long either.
But I did have to Google, like in Google Maps, when Tom first suggested that we move here, where exactly it was. I had no idea. And it's never really on a world map. It's like so small.
No, it's so small.
The word Bermuda is bigger than the island.
And you're all going to be Googling this now and looking. I know you are, because you can't help it. I had to do it. It's mental. When you look, you like zoom out and we disappear basically.
Yeah, and it kind of, obviously the pictures of it it's quite hard to imagine, I think, what it's like, because it is a tiny island. So we do have island life. We have coconuts and we have like beaches and other island quirks, but then we also have a town.
Yeah.
Well, maybe 2 towns. Is St. George a town, would you say?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
So yeah, we have like built, like it's developed as well. There's not really shacks on the beach.
No, we're not
I
like
wish
a
there was.
shack beach kind of island. I know, I'd love little fish shacks on the beach and
like
things.
feet in the sand.
Yeah.
Have a cold.
I think they're trying to get more stuff like that here, but yeah, we don't have that. But yeah, it's a funny little island. Like I'm the same. I came here for a wedding because one of our friends, he's an English guy, married a Bermudian girl who we knew from London. And we came for a long weekend for the wedding, and I was like, wow, this is a nice place. And then randomly, this was not like associated with each other at all, but we ended up moving here the year later, which is crazy. So yeah, I guess like what brought us here, definitely our husband's jobs.
Yeah.
They are in reinsurance.
Not beach bars, sadly.
They work for different companies and they moved at different times. But yeah, both of them actually in England were insurance brokers, and in Bermuda they are underwriters. And actually, I think we touched on it earlier with Tom saying to Elle, but James said the same to me. He's like, I broke better than he ever broke.
I seriously think, like, maybe not now, but if there's any insurance employers out there that want to employ me as a broker, I think I'd be great at it.
So what brought you here, Elle?
What brought me here?
Other than Tom's job.
Well,
like,
Tom's job,
What did
yeah.
the conversation go like?
Oh, it was quite whirlwind. So we'd been together for 8 months. He'd said to me on the first date that Bermuda was a possibility for him. I think maybe he'd just turned down an opportunity here, or kind of not followed up an opportunity. Actually, it wasn't our first date. It was our first date after a 10-year hiatus from the previous first dates. He'd said that was the thing, and one of my friends said to me afterwards, like, that I basically put a list of pros and cons together of this guy that I was dating, and that one of the pros was that he might there was scope to move to Bermuda, even though I still didn't know where this place was. So apparently it was on my radar when I was considering him as marriage material. But then 8 months later, after actually a really horrible accident with a barbecue,
For him, not you.
for him, I'd nursed him to recovery, and we'd got very close very quickly as a result of carrying his wee to the loo in the night and stuff. So he came into the room. I had my own business, and so I was working in my room in London, and he came in and was like, I've just had a call, and like, if I call back and say yes, like, it's basically like, would be, you know, we're saying we would move to Bermuda, like, what do you think about it? And I was like, well, why don't you just call them back? But yeah, okay. And then the next week we were on a flight out here to kind of scope it out and for me to see what it was like. And luckily one of his best friends lived out here, so they kind of showed us around the island. And then I think 4 weeks later, maybe 8 weeks later, we'd moved. So within a year of being together, we'd done quite a lot.
Yeah, that's quite full on, isn't it?
And we'd emigrated together and didn't really know anyone. Or I didn't really know anyone here. I carried on with my business for a while, but it is like tricky to do for various reasons, visa reasons, time zone reasons and stuff. So then I became a wag.
And that's you, yeah. Oh, I mean, that's quite a nice story, though. I mean, the barbecue accident, we'll probably talk about that at another time, but that was quite horrific. But yeah, that year is like crazy.
I haven't really slowed down since.
No, you have been quite full on, to be fair. And James and I, randomly, we were like an old school, kind of got together for a little bit and then broke up because I went away travelling, and we got back together. We'd actually been together a few years before we moved here, but after that kind of weekend away at our friend's wedding, I said to him, people were asking me if I'd move abroad, and I was like, I feel like some of the wives were kind of teeing me up, and he was like, Tor, there are no jobs in Bermuda that I could do. There's nothing that I could apply for at the minute. Like, I know what's going on over there. And then lo and behold, a week later, someone was like, we've got this job opportunity. And he was like, Tor, you're a witch, you know? And I was like, I just knew people were asking me probing questions. I just knew they were kind of, because if like your other half isn't up for it, it's not even like a conversation. But to the fact that like they knew that I'd kind of be up for it, then that's definitely a conversation. So yeah, within a few months we'd said yes. I'd had in my notice in at my job. I was in recruitment, and then we moved. I think it's like 6 months later. So that's how we got here. I'm trying to think, like, we were like talking earlier about me having my posh class.
Yeah.
And we've really noticed some things that Elle and I say, or like sayings that like I'll say or Elle will say, and I'm like, I don't understand that. Or she's like, you can't say that. And what is one of the ones that was really stuck with you that I said, Elle?
The first one that I love, and whenever I rehear it, I think, oh, Tor, is poor cow. Now, I grew up and cow was a kind of, obviously an animal, but also
No.
but also it was like not a nice thing to say to someone. If you called them a cow, it would be, what's the word, an insult.
Yeah.
So poor cow, when you're like being sympathetic to someone. So I think I must have told you a story about something, a person, not an animal, and
You're telling me about somebody that had like a broken leg or something. So it was like, and it was quite a bad injury.
and you were like, poor cow, and I was like, well, that's not a very nice thing to say about them. I mean, I know you said poor cow, but like, you don't know her. Like, that's not very nice.
And then I had to explain that actually it meant like cow is definitely an insult from where I'm from, but if you were like, oh, poor cow, it actually means like, oh, that poor person. And I don't know where the differentiation comes. But
Would you call a man a poor cow as well? Is it gender specific, or is it just like poor
no,
person?
I think it's a woman.
Okay, yeah.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for that, but like, she can't say anything anymore. But like, poor cow Yeah, no, it's a
Yeah.
woman. I know
Okay.
it is.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that poor woman. And I don't know where that comes from and I don't know why. But Elle thought I was basically being really mean.
Really tickles me now, though.
But she also tries to throw it in when we have conversations. And if I'm talking about somebody that's like, she could say it, she's like, oh, poor cow. And then she'll be like, did I say it in the right way?
Yeah, I pour cow bomb occasionally. Don't just drop it. And actually,
yeah.
you just said that you were bibbing someone, and that reminded me that that's also not a word that I've ever used.
You beep them.
Yeah, beep them.
Because in England, I think if you bib your horn, it's like an aggressive thing normally. Whereas in Bermuda, you bib to say thank you. So like if someone lets you out, or if you like see someone and like you do a little toot toot, and I'd call it like a bib bib. And Elle just picked up and she was like, oh, I'd say beep beep. And I was like, oh, I don't know now, because I probably would say beep. Because actually the boys' favourite book that I read them at the minute is like a little truck and it goes beep beep. So I'm like used to saying beep beep, but I definitely say I bib them.
I bought you that book.
Oh, is
Little
that
Blue Truck.
Yeah, it's our favourite.
It's Albie's favourite.
Oh,
Well, less so now, but it was his favourite.
Yeah.
I love Little Blue Truck.
yeah, it's Sonny's favourite and my favourite book as well.
Oh, I think I know all the words.
I'm close, definitely close. But it's made me think of that because I'm like, well, I definitely say bib, but I'm reading this book that says beep, beep, beep all the time at the minute.
Well,
So I must say both.
over to you, listeners. Is it bib or is it beep?
Oh no, I love this because you're definitely gonna like. We talk about Essex and Bath as like our different, like obviously just because that's what we know. So it'd be interesting to like hear what you guys think from like around the world.
It's true. And actually, I've just noticed that you say bath, and a lot of people correct me when I say bath and they say bath, but you mean bath.
Is that because that's the accent from Bath?
No one in Bath would correct that, I don't think.
So
Actually, that's not true.
who's
I'm West
correcting
Country. Sometimes when I say things to my husband, I say, like in a written form, he always replies going, said in a very strong Bristolian accent. But I don't think I have a Bristolian accent, and I'm not from Bristol, but
No.
I'm
more that West Country accent.
West Country, I think might say bath. I don't know, actually.
I don't know, but you're making me laugh because my son is Rafty, the other one, I've got twins, has just learnt to say bath and he says bah, but sometimes when he says it, it sounds like he's saying bath, like a real like either like northern or like West Country. I can't figure it out, but it definitely sounds a little bit like that, which is actually really funny.
Yeah, little quirky phrases. There's loads in Bermuda that I don't think I've adopted yet, but
I'm sure we will. And if you hear us saying anything that we haven't picked up on, please pick us up on it, because that would be really funny hearing from you guys being like, you said this the other day, that we just obviously must take as the norm.
oh, like your parents and
Yeah.
us saying like, was it like? Oh, the boys are on the body.
I'm so sorry. I've definitely just interrupted this podcast because I've looked at a message. So my son's like just over 16 months. And then Nanny was like, get the potty. I'm going to try and like start showing them how to use it. And I literally bought it yesterday. I just sent me a picture of one of them on it already.
That's adorable. And it's a unicorn body.
It's the only one I could get. And like my sons are comfortable with a pink unicorn.
Of course, I love it. I want it.
Brilliant.
I feel like when we like my eldest has started at nursery now, and touch everything wood, we haven't ever had a call yet about him, but the fear like of that, you knowing you're going to get a call being like he bit someone or he did this, you know, or
Yeah. Or he's hit his head. Or like,
yeah, like it's horrible. Everything does. I'm quite jumpy at the best of times, but those really do give me the fear. In fact, one of my best friends just rang me, and then I said my reply always to a missed call is, I think I've seen this on Very British Problems as well. Is always like, everything okay?
Yeah.
Like, what's wrong? Why are you calling me? And he was like, well, I kind of just wanted to call you to give me the fear. Rather than like, oh no, I was just calling for a chat. Like he's like, I know this is going to make you feel like nervous because in the middle of the day you're going to get a call from me.
Which is hilarious because back in the day we would have just called people because
Yeah.
that was the only way to get in touch. Whereas now we never call each other. Like we are the queen of voice notes. And like actually that was one thing we did say we might do is start like playing some of our voice notes or like
Yeah.
re-talking about our voice notes because we voice note each other all throughout the day. And actually we could just call each other, but it might not be
It's
a
not the same.
convenient time and it's not the same. So
And actually, I never used to do this, but I do sometimes play back my own voice notes.
Do you?
Just sometimes
I
to check
can't.
that I've said what I meant to say.
Oh no, I can't listen to my own voice. Like, I can't bear the thought of having to listen to this podcast back.
This may never even like make it. This may get published before we ever hear it, and in fact, we won't ever hear it,
I'm
and
fine
we may
with that.
not even know it works because we've refused to listen.
Also,
to it.
listening to your own voice, is that not
It's the piss,
like
yeah.
you're like, why does my voice sound so awful to me? But everybody else has to listen to this voice.
Yeah, and I don't find it annoying.
No, I don't find yours annoying.
No.
I don't find anyone's voice annoying, really, unless I suppose they've got a really annoying voice. But
Someone did call me a low talker once. She didn't like me. I used to work with her. And then when I left, she was like,
what's in a
kinda
low
nice to
like
me.
tone or
She just went, Elle, you're such a low talker. And I was like, what does that even mean?
what does it mean?
Yeah, I don't know, but it did like, you know, I still remember it however many years later because I presume it was a bit of an insult. But,
I mean, I feel like I love how that probably has affected you. I love
Yeah,
if somebody
I'm a
said
low
that to me,
talker.
I'd have been like, how do you mean? I have no idea what that means.
Whereas
Stu,
I was
who
just
are
like-
you? If you said this to Elle, please message in and tell us what the hell you meant.
Yeah, I'm not going to out her, but I've never forgotten it, really.
I love it if she manages in now. It's my favourite thing ever.
Oh, deadly.
dear.
Yeah, she did not like me when we worked together, but she was nice after I left. So maybe my low talking
Maybe a low talker just
got
bit
too
her up.
much. Too much. At least you said what you thought.
Oh, that's actually really brilliant. I love that so much.
But yeah, hate the sound of our voice. But no, I've started like leaning into that, and I listen to my
Listen to
voice
them.
notes just to check that I said what I needed to say.
Brilliant. What I do with like some voice notes, definitely from Elle and definitely from a few other people here on this island, and they'll know exactly who they are, is I actually start making bullet points
yeah.
when they ask me questions on a piece of paper or in my text messages or WhatsApp, so that I remember everything they've said because they're so long.
Yeah.
I can remember to reply to everything. I'm like, holy guacamole, I'm never going to remember everything. So I've started to write notes basically on my voice notes.
Yeah, actually, a good friend of mine always replies to my voice note saying, thanks for the podcast. Which is kind of how our podcast came
Yeah.
out, because we were early adopters of the voice note. Let's
Yeah.
just add here that we found that the best way to communicate, and we'd be doing our bits and bobs or just say like quickly, hey, what you doing? And then be like, oh, I'm free. Should we do this? And whatever. Should we go to the supermarket together? Or whatever we did used to do.
I also think if you call someone and you're like, do you want to do this? They haven't got time to think of an excuse. And I think that's how I think about it sometimes. I'm like, I'll voice note them, because then if they really don't want to do it, or if like they're halfway through something, then at least they can take their time or think of an excuse to not do it. And I'm like, that really shouldn't be the way to think about it. But I do think that. Like, I'm like, no, I let them have time and then they can get back to me.
I do think as well there's like a whole new etiquette now. Do you remember the WhatsApp blue ticks? And how, like, I actually heard this on the radio recently saying, you know, is it rude to not reply to a message straight away when you've obviously read it and you've been online, and like, where's the boundary? And people were calling in saying like, I don't, or like, I always do that to my friends, and then I reply to a group and then they get annoyed that I've ignored them. And then like voice notes has its whole etiquette now, because I'm paranoid when I press play that they think I've listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
But then I haven't actually listened to it. So I don't know what it says, and I don't know if I need to reply quickly or not. And then I haven't replied, but that person thinks I've read and listened to their voice.
I fully had this conversation, not about the voice notes, about replying with one of our friends here. And I was like, I was really good at replying before I had kids, and now I've turned into that annoying person that is awful at replying. And so what my strategy most of the time is, I will not read a message until I can sit down and reply to it. And if I've read your message and not replied, it means that one of the children has probably interrupted me and I have forgotten. And when I go to read all the other messages later, I do check and make sure I've replied to them. But that is my strategy now. I'm like, I try not to read until I'm ready to reply, because I can't bear being blue ticked, even still. So I'm like, you've read this. But then I know that if the
I'm a blue
kids
ticker.
distract me, but then I know the people that blue tick me, and I know why they blue tick me. So actually, most of the time, it doesn't annoy me. But
Or
like,
you could be my husband and hide the blue ticks, so I just know that he's read it. So sneaky.
oh, my husband's brilliant. He would have a clue how to do anything like that. He's so useless at anything like that. He'd literally
I've
have a clue.
only recently got to the point where, you know how your email inbox gets a bit out of hand and it's almost too overwhelming to deal with it because you've got those unread
I
emails.
can't deal with them anymore.
Actually, mine's only 400, and I say only 400 unread because we got my mum recently to like declare hers, and we were all taking bets on what my mum's unread emails were, because she's always like, oh, I didn't get it, I didn't get the email, it didn't come through. And I'm like, you just didn't read it, like, because you've got
It
so
didn't
many.
come through, but you get some of my emails. That's so fun.
And so we were like, how many unread does my mum have? It was 97,000. But then also she had like thousands and thousands of missed voice calls. Anyway, when your email inbox gets spit out of hand, it's almost too hard to like deal with it.
Yeah.
You just like, and now I'm sure it wouldn't be that hard for me to filter them all and spend 20 minutes sorting it. But now I'm actually at that stage with my WhatsApps as well, that I'm behind on so many things. I almost can't go back.
See, my WhatsApps I can't deal with.
I have to deal with them.
I have to deal with them. I can't, like, if it within a few days I can't. But my emails now, I'm like, how do I find? I need to know how many unreads I've got.
How many unreads are in your inbox? We need to know.
I mean, could I do this? Let's see. How do you find that? Where's the unread filter?
There, this number's here. 2176. That's just your Hotmail though.
Oh, so I've not as many as your mum then.
No, that's good. But 400, I told my husband last night, and he just went,
Yeah, but I think when you're at work, like when I was in my office at work, I literally wouldn't leave the office until my inbox only had to-dos in it. I'd file everything every day.
Same.
I was like a crazy anal person like that. So I think when you're in an office and you've got work and you're doing daily things, I think it's so different. Whereas actually the emails we've got, like, we have to make to-do lists, but a lot of the stuff that comes in and out of our inbox is like, bleh. And like, the kids' nursery, like, or playgroup emails, you're going to look at those and prioritise those. And then everything else sort of gets forgotten, doesn't it? Our Zara orders are definitely right up there with priority.
oh my God, Amazon sends so many emails per order that like I just can't keep up with them. I bet that's what I should filter, actually, like Amazon orders.
Anyway, we digress. I feel like that was a little taster into what the podcast might be about, what you'll hear more about, and we'll definitely go in depth in a lot more things. But we hope you enjoyed it.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, come back soon. Bye. Thanks for listening to Poolside Problems.
We hope we made you laugh a little, and that you felt like you too were hiding under a duvet with us with a cup of coffee for some girl chats about our real problems and our silly poolside problems too.
If you enjoyed listening, we'd love to hear from you in a review below, and don't forget to subscribe.
If there's something you'd like us to open up the conversation about, or something we talked about today resonated with you, drop us a message on our Instagram at Poolside Problems, and we will try to include it in future episodes.
And of course, nothing is TMI. We are all ears to anything else you'd like to share with us.
See you next week for more Poolside Problems. Touring out.